What is going on, everyone? It's your boy Tony at the weekly close, here to report on the art of the chart and share the latest trends, thoughts and analysis from different minds all in one place. So here we are on week 16, title of which is Hold Fire, Earnings Hiatus, lots of uncertainty in the markets. So let's just see what others are kind of commenting and sharing. So the first video we're going to kick off with is from Glassnode. The title was "The week on chain, is the Bitcoin bear market over?" And then just as a kind of summary, we've got the overlaid projections of daily, weekly and monthly performance, just showing how basically since the turn of the year, the beginning, the uptick of kind of price performance and action, which historically, you know, if you compare that all the way back into July 18, it is of a kind of a significant amount of activity that we should be kind of keeping an eye on in terms of price action, usually the beginning of something. In terms of kind of looking at long and short term holder threshold, I guess the interesting thing about this was the kind of the clarification of the interesting point of 155 days is used as a threshold, and we just can't oversimplify short-term holders and long-term holders as hodlers or not. But I guess what's interesting is this kind of this overlapping and this exchanging of hands, which doesn't necessarily mean, you know, whales are one or the other, but actually is how whales become one or the other. So the fact that, you know, those who are smartest will be dispensing their Bitcoin at the highest and reaccumulating at the kind of at the lower levels. So this is an interesting kind of crossover, and I guess as we kind of separating and at the moment from the price action, it will be interesting to see what happens when, you know, these lines converge. What point in the market will we be in? And an interesting kind of element of the dashboard that was shared with us is just basically how much of all of the most recent price action in terms of volume, where does that sit in terms of price along this x-axis at the bottom? You know, essentially saying, although we've got a lot of people who are trapped from 30k upwards, who maybe will be looking to get cost neutral and get out, essentially a lot of the activity today is sitting 30k and below. Where are we at right now? 26, 27. So, you know, in this pocket, say here. So it'll be interesting to see what is the thrust and momentum that's going to take us forward. In terms of Elliott Wave theory from kind of Green Star Trading, we've got the S&P 500 Elliott Wave analysis, and the question on everyone's lips is this still the beginning of an impulse? In terms of kind of the resistance that we have in front of us, you know, we've got 415 as a resistance level, 406 which we're slightly above at the moment, and essentially just pointing out that everything from this decline, from this fixed volume profile, we've got the point of control right in between these two levels. So a lot to be hitting our heads upon. But the key levels that we'll be keeping an eye on as to whether this is an impulse or not, you know, I guess people will only be taking the bearish counts off the table when these pivots can be flipped. So 431 and 418 key levels to be keeping an eye on. So in terms of the Elliott Wave account and analysis itself, and what perhaps has caught a lot of people off guard, was the assumption that we were kind of already in the impulse wave of the wave 3 to the upside, but now it's just kind of the idea, the question mark, are we within this kind of leading diagonal, expecting the kind of the pullback, hence these kind of invalidations, just kind of pointing out on the smaller time frames and the smaller wave counts that you know, would have to kind of rethink this entirely, because there is a bearish alternative where question mark, is this actually a leading diagonal, but is this the part of a larger kind of corrective wave with the motive to be continued to the downside? So is this a part of a larger corrective compound? So until these invalidation levels are broken, I guess it's fair to say we won't fully be considering this, but, you know, my lord, if those do get broken, then, you know, this is something that we're going to have to be looking at. In terms of gold from FX Empire earlier in the week, we had, where's the commentary? We have this, the identification of the the continued movement in the longer term uptrend with this on the one on the daily time frame, but the kind of highlighting and notice of the kind of the short term downtrend, the kind of the upward channel in combination with the bearish divergence, expecting a kind of a breakout to the downside to test the lower band of this upwards trend that's been taking place basically since November. I wonder if there's a kind of a coincidence of the timing of that with the FTX collapse and the like. In terms of the Euro USD from Jean FX, we've got this analysis from the 17th of April, and this was some really nice spot on linear TA. The highlighting of this this round psychological level of 1.1075, and it was just kind of pointing out just really nice simple things, the kind of upward sloping support line, but also the kind of the local support zone at this level, and this is basically how kind of price has played out since. It's this kind of expecting it to come down to test this upward support and again butt heads at this higher level, and in the event that there was going to be a break to the downside, the kind of highlighting of this area, this kind of support zone, as being a critical area for potentially price to kind of return to. In terms of a little bit more Elliott Wave analysis, this time from the video Ethereum ETH price news today. So this is the technical analysis earlier in the week. Again, it was just highlighting, you can even just see with that wick to the downside how it broke this count, this assumption that this was a wave 1, 2 going into the 3, but this, well, actually, sorry, no, this is the 1, 2. So this being 1, 2, 3, assuming this was going to be the wave 4 on the minute of a larger wave count, but a wave 4 usually not break, essentially it breaking past the kind of the 0.5 on the Fibonacci retracement, kind of taking that off the table. Hence why we're looking at leading diagonals and the like. But that wick just ripped through those levels. But we can see when we move forward, these kind of reconsiderations that are being made, this kind of depth of a pullback, all of it, considering that now this is a part of a larger wave 1 going into a 2, so hence why we've got the 618, the 786 all up there as potential levels. So this interesting this is where definitely we've got to keep eyes on at the moment. Is price pulling back to the 1660 mark, or even as low as 1533 before continuing upwards if it is a wave 2? So that's what we're going to have to be keeping an eye out on. And then just parts of some larger news from just the kind of the dashboards of Glassnode and elsewhere, but just looking at the entity adjusted net unrealized profit and loss, and just that kind of range that we're kind of coming back into at the moment. This interesting, this question mark, are we actually back in optimistic territory? It doesn't feel like that on the larger spectrum of where news is at the moment, but an interesting one that's where kind of price and these indicators are landing us. And then just a kind of an update looking at the kind of the daily active users of the most daily active users on a lot of these crypto networks. Polygon standing tall and proud at the top consistently for all of 2023 since the beginning of the year, with 330 active users on daily. Second is Solana, 287, followed closely by Ethereum. So just interesting to see how, despite all of the kind of uncertainty, still the change in news, developments, price action, there is basically still underlying consistent usage taking place on these networks. So some key things and interesting things to kind of watch out for as we move forward are those kind of critical pivot points on the S&P. Like I said, 418 as a minor pivot, 431 as the major, and essentially just kind of waiting to see what the kind of action that's taking place on the S&P itself, expecting that kind of that break of what looks like a leading diagonal with a pullback, a pullback to be expected. And in terms we've explained the kind of the similar correlations between kind of Ethereum and Bitcoin, which we know S&P moves in lockstep with one another as well. So I think that kind of covers all those points under point 2. And then with Euro USD, we've seen the pullback, which is really interesting, and now butting heads up again at those psychological level. But the interesting question now is, what is the breakout? Is it going to be a breakout to the upside, or is it going to be a breakout to the downside towards those support levels that we were just anticipating? So that was just a quick update. Look forward to touching base with everyone next week.